21 Black celebrities who tragically died in destitution. Imagine having the world at your feet, only to lose it all: your fame, your fortune, your legacy. These legendary Black celebrities, once at the peak of their careers, fell victim to the harsh realities of fame. From addiction and financial ruin to personal battles that overshadowed their brilliance, their stories are both shocking and heartbreaking. But what led to their tragic downfalls? In this video, we explore the untold stories of icons like Billie Holiday, DMX, and Sammy Davis Jr. Who do you think faced the most devastating fate? Comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge was a trailblazing actress who made history as the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Carmen Jones, 1954. She captivated audiences with her stunning beauty, talent, and grace, becoming one of Hollywood's first Black stars to receive mainstream recognition. However, her rise to fame was short-lived, and her success was overshadowed by the deep racial barriers that existed in Hollywood at the time. Despite her groundbreaking achievement, Dandridge struggled to secure leading roles in the years that followed. Hollywood's enthusiasm for her faded quickly, and she was typecast, making it difficult for her to find meaningful work. Her personal life was also fraught with difficulties. Dandridge's marriage to dancer Harold Nicholas fell apart due to his infidelity, and she was left to raise their intellectually disabled daughter alone. Financially, Dandridge faced severe struggles. She was swindled by a financial manager who mismanaged her money, leading to bankruptcy in 1963. At one point, she had only $3 to her name, and she was forced to perform in small, low-paying clubs just to survive. As her career dwindled and depression took hold, Dandridge turned to sedatives to cope with her pain. Friends who had once been close to her gradually drifted away, and she was left isolated. On September 8, 1965, Dandridge was found dead in her Los Angeles apartment at the age of 42. The official cause of death was reported as a drug overdose, though some have speculated it was a suicide. Despite her immense talent and breaking racial barriers, Dorothy Dandridge died in relative obscurity, a tragic example of how quickly the industry can turn its back on its stars, leaving them to face hardship and loneliness. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday, often called Lady Day, is widely regarded as one of the greatest jazz and blues singers of all time. Her unique voice, full of raw emotion, captivated audiences and made songs like Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child legendary. Holiday's music transcended genres, and her ability to convey pain, loss, and love through song established her as a trailblazer in American music. Despite her immense talent, her personal life was filled with heartache, addiction, and financial struggles, which ultimately led to her tragic end. Holiday's early life was plagued by hardship. She grew up in poverty, and by the time she was a young woman, she had already experienced abandonment, abuse, and racism. These early experiences deeply influenced her music and her ability to sing with such depth of feeling. However, her personal demons, particularly a lifelong battle with addiction to drugs and alcohol, would shadow her career. In 1947, she was arrested for drug possession, and despite her legal troubles, her music continued to earn her recognition. By the late 1950s, Billie Holiday's health had begun to deteriorate due to years of substance abuse. In 1959, while hospitalized for liver disease, she had only 70 cents left to her name. She was arrested once more while in the hospital, this time for a small amount of heroin found in her possession. This incident led to her being handcuffed to her hospital bed, a humiliating and cruel end for a woman who had once been one of the most celebrated musicians in the world. Billie Holiday passed away on July 17, 1959, at the age of 44. She died destitute, her voice silenced far too soon. Despite her struggles and her tragic end, her legacy lives on in the music she left behind. Holiday's story is a somber reminder of how addiction, racism, and financial mismanagement can strip away even the brightest stars, leaving them to fade into obscurity. Lisa "Left Eye" Lopez. Lisa Lopez, best known as Left Eye from the iconic hip-hop group TLC, was a force of nature in the music world. Her raw talent, bold personality, and unique lyrical style helped propel TLC to superstardom in the 1990s, with chart-topping hits like No Scrubs and Waterfalls. The group became one of the best-selling female groups of all time, with over 23 million copies of their album Crazy Sexy Cool sold. However, despite her success, Lopez's personal life was marred by controversies, struggles with relationships, and legal issues. Lopez was known for her fiery personality and, at times, reckless behavior, which led to legal battles and strained relationships. In 1994, she set fire to her boyfriend Andre Rison's mansion, a controversial act that led to significant media scrutiny and legal consequences. While TLC was navigating the heights of their career, Lopez also faced financial troubles. The group was bound by a poor contract that led to them filing for bankruptcy despite their multi-million-dollar success. Financial mismanagement and ongoing personal struggles affected her ability to find peace. In 2002, Lopez traveled to Honduras to seek spiritual clarity and peace of mind. However, her life was tragically cut short on April 25, 2002, when she was involved in a fatal car crash. At the time of her death, she was only 30 years old. In the weeks leading up to her death, Lopez had written in her journal about ominous premonitions, which only made the tragic loss more eerie. Lisa, Left-Eye Lopez's death was a stark reminder of how quickly fame can vanish, leaving behind a complicated legacy marked by both brilliance and personal turmoil. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the most talented and beloved entertainers of his time. Known for his extraordinary abilities as a singer, dancer, and actor, Davis was a central figure in the legendary Rat Pack alongside Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. His incredible talent allowed him to captivate audiences across the globe, earning him fame and fortune. However, despite his success, Davis's personal life was filled with excessive spending, mismanagement of finances, and an unrelenting battle with his own demons. Davis spent a large portion of his earnings on a lavish lifestyle, indulging in expensive cars, homes, and parties. However, his fortune quickly slipped away due to years of irresponsible financial decisions and unpaid taxes. In addition to his financial troubles, Davis faced health issues and a growing sense of isolation as he aged. In 1989, Davis was diagnosed with throat cancer, which was a cruel blow for a man whose voice had been his defining feature. Despite undergoing surgery to remove the cancer, Davis's health continued to deteriorate. By the time of his death on May 16, 1990, Sammy Davis Jr. was living in a foreclosed mansion, deeply in debt. He died at the age of 64, after spending his final months battling cancer and the financial ruin that had plagued him for years. Sammy's tragic end, after a life of extraordinary success, highlights the high cost of excess and the harsh realities that even the most talented and adored individuals can face in their final years. Davis's legacy lives on, but his story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of fame and fortune. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was an iconic figure in the world of music, known for his smooth voice and groundbreaking albums like What's Going On and Sexual Healing. His ability to blend soul, pop, and political consciousness created a unique sound that resonated with generations of listeners. Gaye's career achievements were monumental, with his music addressing social issues like racism, poverty, and war in ways that made him not just a musician but a voice for change. He was a beloved figure, with a legacy of timeless hits that redefined soul music. However, behind the fame and success, Gaye's personal life was riddled with struggle. His relationship with his father, Reverend Marvin Gaye Sr., was tense and filled with resentment. The conflict between them grew over the years, and it was compounded by Gaye's battle with addiction, financial problems, and a deteriorating sense of self-worth. Despite earning millions over his career, Gaye struggled to manage his finances, accruing massive debts, including over $9 million in back taxes. He also dealt with heavy drug use that further affected his career and personal life. On April 1, 1984, at the age of 44, Marvin Gaye's life came to a tragic end when he was shot and killed by his father during a domestic dispute. The tragedy occurred just one day before Gaye's 45th birthday. His death marked the loss of a music legend whose voice had not only entertained but also inspired change. Gaye's legacy is one of innovation and soulful beauty, yet his death serves as a heartbreaking reminder of the mental and emotional toll that fame, addiction, and family conflict can take on even the most gifted individuals. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman, the child star of Diff'rent Strokes, became an iconic figure in American television during the late 1970s and 1980s. His famous catchphrase, "What you talking about, Willis?" made him a household name and brought him instant fame as the adorable Arnold Jackson. By the time he was 12, Coleman was earning $70,000 a week, making him one of the highest-paid child actors of his time. However, despite his early success, Coleman's adult life was marked by struggles with financial mismanagement, legal battles, and personal turmoil. Coleman's wealth was mismanaged by his adoptive parents and handlers, leaving him with little control over his earnings. In 1989, after suing his parents and winning a $1.3 million lawsuit, the damage was already done. By the time he reached adulthood, Coleman's career had faded, and he found himself financially destitute, working as a security guard and taking small TV gigs to survive. In his later years, Coleman's personal life was filled with legal disputes, including a tumultuous marriage to Shannon Price, which ended in controversy. On May 28, 2010, at the age of 42, Gary Coleman tragically passed away after suffering a fall in his home, which resulted in a severe head injury. He was rushed to the hospital but remained in critical condition and was later taken off life support. His death was a somber reminder of how child stars often struggle to manage their wealth and navigate the transition to adulthood in a complex and unforgiving industry. Despite his early fame, Coleman's life ended in obscurity and financial hardship, underscoring the difficult journey many former child stars face. Joe Louis. Joe Louis, known as the Brown Bomber, was one of the greatest boxers in the history of the sport, holding the heavyweight title for over 11 years and defending it a record 25 times. His influence transcended the ring, becoming a symbol of American pride during World War II, and he was celebrated for his dominance in boxing, as well as his racial significance during a time of deep segregation. Louis earned millions from his fights, endorsements, and exhibition matches, and he was widely regarded as an American hero, especially after his famous victory over Max Schmeling in 1938, which was viewed as a victory over Nazi Germany. However, despite his immense success and popularity, Louis faced severe financial mismanagement and struggled with his personal finances. He had no control over his earnings, and by the late 1940s, he was in debt due to lavish spending and poor business decisions. The IRS slapped him with a $500,000 tax bill, which he was never able to pay off fully. His financial ruin deepened as Louis was forced to take on low-paying jobs after his boxing career ended, such as working as a greeter at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. His last years were spent struggling with depression, poor health, and a lack of financial security. Joe Louis died on April 12, 1981, from heart failure at the age of 66. His funeral was funded by charity, highlighting how far he had fallen from the champion who once earned millions. Louis's story is a tragic reminder of how fame and fortune can be fleeting, and how even the most celebrated athletes can face devastating financial collapse. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard was a founding member of the Supremes, one of the most successful girl groups in the history of Motown and one of the defining acts of the 1960s. With her powerful voice, Ballard was integral to the success of the group, especially in their early years, before Diana Ross took over the spotlight. The Supremes enjoyed unprecedented commercial success, but behind the scenes, Ballard was battling personal struggles, including her position within the group and growing tension with Berry Gordy, the head of Motown. Ballard's story is one of heartbreak and betrayal. Despite her crucial role in the Supremes, she was sidelined when Gordy shifted the focus to Diana Ross, resulting in a profound sense of exclusion. Her personal and professional struggles deepened when she was ultimately replaced by Cindy Birdsong in 1967. This marked the beginning of her downfall. Ballard struggled to get solo work, and she faced financial difficulties, living in poverty after leaving Motown. Her attempts at a solo career were unsuccessful, and she was left with little recognition or support. By the time of her death, Ballard was living in a small apartment with her children, surviving on welfare. She passed away from cardiac arrest on February 22, 1976, at just 32 years old, with only $139 in her settlement from leaving the Supremes, a fraction of the wealth the group went on to amass. Florence Ballard's tragic end serves as a reminder of how talent can be overlooked and how the music industry can often neglect its stars once they are no longer in the spotlight. Her contributions to music are still remembered, but her story highlights the cruel reality many artists face when their moment of fame fades away. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, once a football icon and Hollywood actor, became one of the most infamous figures in modern American history. In the 1970s and 1980s, Simpson was celebrated as one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. He won the prestigious Heisman Trophy in 1968 and went on to have a successful career with the Buffalo Bills, later making history as the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a season. His speed and athleticism earned him endorsements and a lucrative career off the field, including acting roles in movies like the Naked Gun series. Simpson's career, however, took a dramatic and tragic turn in the 1990s. In 1994, he was arrested for the murders of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman, leading to one of the most widely covered criminal trials in history. The trial captivated the nation and became a media circus, often referred to as the trial of the century. Despite being acquitted in 1995, the shadow of the case would haunt Simpson for the rest of his life. In 1997, Simpson was found liable for the deaths of Brown and Goldman in a civil trial, resulting in a $33.5 million judgment against him, which he struggled to pay. Over the years, Simpson's finances spiraled out of control, and he faced significant debt, losing much of the wealth he had accumulated during his football career. In 2007, Simpson was involved in an armed robbery in Las Vegas, leading to his conviction and a 33-year prison sentence. After serving 9 years, Simpson was released in 2017. Despite his efforts to rebuild his life after prison, O.J. Simpson's legacy is forever tainted by the murders and the public scrutiny that followed. As of 2025, Simpson is still alive at 76, but his life has been defined not by his athletic achievements but by the controversies that overshadowed them. His story is a sobering reminder of how quickly fame can turn to infamy, and how even the most celebrated figures can be consumed by scandal, legal battles, and financial ruin. Red Fox. Red Fox was one of America's greatest comedians, known for his sharp wit and his groundbreaking role in the hit TV show Sanford and Son. Fox brought black comedy into the mainstream, paving the way for future generations of black comedians. His irreverent humor and fearless satire captivated audiences, making him a beloved figure in the entertainment world. During the height of his career, Fox lived a lavish lifestyle, enjoying luxury homes, cars, and a lavish social life. However, behind the laughter, Fox's financial life was in disarray. Despite his success, he was known for his poor financial management, including excessive spending and a lack of foresight in his business dealings. In the 1980s, the IRS came after Fox for back taxes, and the government seized much of his wealth, including his homes, vehicles, and other prized possessions. By the time of his death, Fox was living in a modest apartment, far from the opulence he once enjoyed. Fox also struggled with health issues, and his later years were marked by a lack of stability. On October 11, 1991, while filming The Royal Family in Las Vegas, Fox collapsed and died from a heart attack at the age of 68. His passing, while tragic, was not entirely unexpected given the financial and personal battles he faced. Red Fox's death serves as a reminder of how even the most influential stars can fall victim to the high costs of fame and financial mismanagement, leaving behind only the echoes of their laughter. Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson, known as Mr. Excitement, was one of the most electrifying and influential soul singers of the 1950s and 1960s. His powerful voice and dynamic stage presence helped redefine the R&B genre, with hits like Lonely Teardrops and Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher. Wilson's energy on stage made him a pioneer of soul music, influencing countless artists who followed in his footsteps. His career spanned decades, earning him millions and making him a beloved figure in the music world. However, Wilson's life off stage was marred by financial struggles, mismanagement, and betrayal. Despite earning substantial sums from his music, he was taken advantage of by his manager, who embezzled a significant portion of his earnings. By the time of his death, Wilson was penniless, living in a nursing home after suffering a stroke on stage in 1975. The stroke left him in a coma for 9 years, with little financial support from the music industry that had once embraced him. Jackie Wilson died on January 21, 1984, at the age of 49. His funeral was funded by fans, and the family struggled to provide for his final resting place. There was no grand memorial or tribute for a man who had once set the music world on fire. Instead, his final years were spent in obscurity, a tragic end for one of the greatest voices in music history. Wilson's story highlights the cruel reality of how success can be fleeting, and how fame can fade into financial hardship and neglect. Billy Preston. Billy Preston was a celebrated musician whose work in the 1960s and 1970s helped define the sound of some of the most iconic acts in music history, including the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and his own solo career. Known as the Fifth Beatle, Preston played keyboards on some of the Beatles' most famous tracks, such as Get Back, and contributed to hits by other artists like Something and With a Little Help from My Friends. His distinctive style and musicianship earned him recognition as one of the most talented session musicians of his era. Despite his musical genius, Preston's life after fame was riddled with financial mismanagement and personal struggles. His wealth, which once seemed boundless, was squandered due to his addiction to drugs and poor financial oversight. By the time he was in his 50s, Preston found himself struggling financially, his career in decline. He was betrayed by his manager, who embezzled funds from him, leaving him penniless. Medical issues compounded his troubles, and in the final years of his life, Preston was living in a modest apartment, relying on dwindling royalties. In 2006, Preston's health worsened, and he slipped into a coma after suffering kidney failure, likely exacerbated by his years of addiction. He died on June 6, 2006, at the age of 59 in a Los Angeles hospital, alone and without the fortune he had once enjoyed. His death was a tragic end for an artist who had contributed to the creation of some of the most influential music of the 20th century, yet whose life ended in obscurity and financial ruin. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was one of the most talented soul singers of his generation, known for his deeply emotive voice and his ability to blend gospel, soul, and jazz into a unique sound. His classic albums Everything is Everything and Live showcased his incredible range and emotional depth. Hathaway's duets with Roberta Flack, particularly Where Is the Love and The Closer I Get to You, remain iconic. His music resonated deeply with listeners, and his legacy as a vocalist and performer is still cherished. However, Hathaway's life was marked by mental health struggles, particularly his battle with schizophrenia. His condition worsened over time, affecting both his career and personal life. As he faced increasing paranoia and hallucinations, his health deteriorated, and he was no longer able to perform at the level that had once made him a star. Financial struggles compounded his issues, and by the late 1970s, Hathaway was facing significant debt. His mental health also strained his relationships with family and friends, leaving him isolated in his final years. On January 13, 1979, Donny Hathaway was found dead after falling from the 15th floor of a hotel in New York City. The exact circumstances surrounding his death remain unclear, but it was ruled a suicide. Hathaway was just 33 years old. His tragic end stands as a reminder of the pressures that mental health issues and the music industry can have on an individual, especially when combined with the isolation of fame and financial instability. Donny Hathaway's voice continues to resonate in the world of music, but his life remains a somber reflection of the struggles many face, even at the peak of their success. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman was a powerhouse vocalist whose voice captivated audiences with its rich, soulful depth. Her career spanned decades, with hits like You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone becoming timeless classics. Hyman's musical talent earned her a respected place in the R&B and soul music worlds, and she was admired for her vocal range and emotional delivery. Her performances were marked by an elegance that matched the intensity of her voice, making her a standout artist of her era. Despite her professional success, Hyman's personal life was far from easy. She struggled with depression, loneliness, and financial instability. Throughout her career, she faced difficulties in securing consistent record deals, and her financial mismanagement added to her struggles. Hyman's addiction to alcohol and prescription drugs further exacerbated her personal challenges. Her struggle with mental health and feelings of isolation left her in a constant battle, despite her outward success. On June 30, 1995, Phyllis Hyman was found dead in her apartment at the age of 45. The cause of death was determined to be an overdose of sleeping pills, a tragic end that left the music world in shock. Despite her talent, Hyman's life ended quietly, with little fanfare, reflecting the toll that depression, addiction, and financial strain had taken on her. Phyllis Hyman's death highlighted the often overlooked struggles faced by many artists, even those with incredible talent, and her legacy is a reminder of the emotional and mental health challenges that can accompany fame. Rick James. Rick James, known for his larger-than-life persona and hit songs like Super Freak and Give It To Me Baby, was a funk legend who brought energy, style, and innovation to the music scene in the 1970s and 1980s. His wild lifestyle, marked by excess, flamboyance, and boundary-pushing performances, made him one of the most recognizable figures in funk music. James' fusion of funk, soul, and rock made him a beloved icon, and his contributions to music shaped the genre for years to come. However, James' career was overshadowed by his personal demons. His excessive lifestyle, including heavy drug use, contributed to a rapid decline in both his career and personal life. His wealth was rapidly spent on lavish parties, extravagant living, and drug addiction, leaving him with little financial stability as time went on. By the early 2000s, James' once thriving career had diminished, and he was left struggling with both health issues and financial instability. On August 6, 2004, Rick James was found dead in a Los Angeles apartment at the age of 56. His death was attributed to heart failure, but a toxicology report revealed that his body contained a mix of various drugs, including sedatives, painkillers, and antipsychotics. His final years were marked by the depletion of his wealth, and he lived his last days isolated from the fame and adoration that had once been his. Despite his many accomplishments, Rick James' tragic end serves as a stark reminder of how excess and addiction can overshadow even the most extraordinary careers, ultimately leading to ruin and loss. DMX, Earl Simmons. DMX, born Earl Simmons, was a defining figure in hip-hop, known for his gritty, raw style and emotionally charged lyrics that captured the struggles of inner-city life. With hits like Rough Riders Anthem and Party Up, Up in Here, DMX rose to stardom in the late 1990s and early 2000s, becoming one of rap's biggest and most influential stars. His unique voice and aggressive delivery made him a standout in a crowded rap scene, and he quickly gained a devoted fan base. Despite his success, DMX faced constant battles with addiction, legal issues, and mental health struggles. He was arrested multiple times throughout his career, often due to drug possession and other charges. These personal issues began to overshadow his musical career. DMX's addiction to crack cocaine, which started in his youth, took a heavy toll on his life, leading to stints in rehab, legal troubles, and financial problems. Despite earning millions during his peak, he was left with significant debts and had difficulty managing his finances. On April 9, 2021, DMX's life tragically came to an end after a drug overdose triggered a heart attack. He was taken to White Plains Hospital in New York, where he was placed on life support. He passed away a week later, at the age of 50. DMX's death marked the loss of a hip-hop legend who was both beloved and troubled. His struggles with addiction and the challenges of fame serve as a stark reminder of how even the most celebrated figures can be consumed by their personal demons. Odetta Holmes. Odetta Holmes, known simply as Odetta, was one of the most influential folk singers in American history. Her powerful voice and her ability to blend folk, blues, and gospel music made her a beacon of the civil rights movement. She inspired generations with her renditions of traditional songs like This Little Light of Mine and Eleanor Rigby, and she was recognized as an artist who used her platform to advocate for social change. Odetta's music became synonymous with resistance and empowerment during a time of racial injustice. Although Odetta's influence on the music world was immense, her life outside the spotlight was marked by financial struggles. Despite her significant contributions to music, she never reached the level of fame or financial stability that many of her peers enjoyed. Much of her earnings went to medical expenses and charity work, and by the time she was in her later years, Odetta was in poor health, battling heart and kidney disease. As her health deteriorated, Odetta continued to tour and perform, not out of passion but out of financial necessity. Her last years were spent on the road, often performing despite her declining health. In 2006, she expressed her desire to sing at Barack Obama's inauguration, a dream she was never able to fulfill. Odetta died on December 2, 2008, at the age of 77, in New York City. Despite her death, her influence remains profound, with many artists citing her as a major inspiration. Odetta's story is one of unyielding dedication to music and justice, but also a tragic reminder of how often even the most important figures in history are left behind financially and physically in their later years. Wilson Pickett. Wilson Pickett was a pioneering figure in the soul music genre, renowned for his powerful voice and energetic performances. With hits like In the Midnight Hour and Mustang Sally, Pickett became one of the most prominent figures in 1960s R&B. His raw, emotive delivery and ability to convey deep emotion through his music made him a beloved artist, and his songs are still staples of soul music to this day. Pickett's influence stretched across generations, inspiring countless artists in both soul and rock music. However, despite his musical genius and success, Pickett's life was marred by personal and financial struggles. He became known for his reckless lifestyle, which included alcohol and drug abuse. His career, which had once been full of promise, began to slow as his personal issues took a toll. Pickett faced multiple legal issues, including arrests related to his drinking and temper. Financially, he also struggled, with debts piling up and his career in decline. By the time of his death in 2006, Pickett was living far from the heights of his success. His later years were marked by health problems, including diabetes, which led to complications. On January 19, 2006, Wilson Pickett passed away from a stroke at the age of 64. He had spent his final years living in obscurity, a far cry from the vibrant career that once made him a household name. Pickett's death underscored the harsh realities that many musicians face, with success often followed by personal turmoil, financial instability, and an untimely end. Dexter Gordon. Dexter Gordon was a legendary jazz saxophonist whose career spanned over 5 decades, and he is considered one of the founding figures in modern jazz. Known for his deep, warm tone and improvisational genius, Gordon was instrumental in bringing the tenor saxophone to the forefront of jazz music. His work with artists like Louis Armstrong, Count Basie, and Billie Holiday helped shape the direction of jazz, and his influence is still felt today. Despite his immense talent, Gordon's life was plagued by addiction to alcohol and heroin, which impacted his health and career. His battles with substance abuse often led to periods of inactivity, and he struggled to maintain a steady income in the later years of his life. Gordon's financial troubles worsened as he faced legal issues related to his addiction and failed to manage his earnings properly. By the time he found some stability in the 1980s, when he received an Oscar nomination for his role in Round Midnight, 1986, his health was already in decline. Dexter Gordon's health continued to deteriorate, and he was diagnosed with cancer. He died on April 25, 1990, at the age of 67, from kidney failure and throat cancer. Gordon's death was a tragic end for one of jazz's most influential figures. His final years were filled with financial difficulties and poor health, despite a legendary career that earned him widespread acclaim. Gordon's story serves as a powerful reminder of the destructive toll addiction can take on even the most talented and celebrated individuals. Etta James. Etta James was one of the most powerful and versatile vocalists in American music history. Her career spanned over 5 decades, during which she earned critical acclaim for her rich, soulful voice that could seamlessly blend blues, jazz, gospel, and R&B. With iconic songs like At Last, Tell Mama, and I'd Rather Go Blind, James became a beloved figure in the music world, revered for her emotive delivery and profound impact on popular music. Her voice was a force of nature, able to convey both deep sorrow and overwhelming joy, and she is often considered one of the greatest singers of all time. However, James' personal life was fraught with turmoil. She battled addiction to heroin, which led to years of personal and professional instability. Her struggles with substance abuse caused her to miss out on opportunities, and she often found herself in difficult financial situations. Her tumultuous relationships, particularly with her family, added to the emotional strain she faced throughout her life. Despite these challenges, she remained resilient and continued to perform, but her later years were marked by poor health, including a diagnosis of leukemia in 2010. Etta James passed away on January 20, 2012, at the age of 73, after battling leukemia and heart failure. Her death was a tragic end for an artist whose voice had once captivated audiences around the world. Although she was a true legend, her final years were marked by illness, financial struggles, and the consequences of her past. Yet, Etta James' legacy continues to live on through the music she left behind, and she remains an enduring figure in the history of soul and R&B music. Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes was a musical genius and one of the key figures in the development of soul and funk music. As a composer, arranger, and performer, he became a cultural icon, particularly for his work on the groundbreaking soundtrack for Shaft, 1971, which won him an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Hayes' smooth, deep voice and his ability to mix funk with lush orchestration made him a pioneering force in the music industry, and his work helped define the sound of the 1970s. He was also a major influence on artists in both the soul and hip-hop genres, with his work being sampled countless times. However, Hayes' later years were marked by financial difficulties, personal battles, and controversy. Despite his success, he faced mismanagement of his wealth and overspending. His extravagant lifestyle, combined with poor financial decisions, led him to lose much of his fortune. He also faced health problems, including a stroke, which affected his ability to work and perform. In 2006, Hayes left his role on the popular animated series South Park due to a dispute over the show's portrayal of his religion, Scientology, further adding to his personal struggles. Isaac Hayes died on August 10, 2008, at the age of 65, after suffering a stroke. At the time of his death, Hayes was living in a modest home in Memphis, far from the heights of his earlier career. His passing was a sad reminder of how even the most celebrated musicians can face significant personal and financial challenges as they age. Isaac Hayes' legacy, however, endures through his influential music, his impact on soul and funk, and his unforgettable contributions to popular culture. The lives of these legendary black celebrities remind us that fame, fortune, and success can be fleeting. Despite their immense talents and contributions to music, film, and culture, many face tragic downfalls, battling addiction, financial mismanagement, and personal struggles. Figures like Dorothy Dandridge, Billie Holiday, and DMX leave behind a complex legacy that highlights the harsh realities of fame. Their stories serve as both a warning and a reminder of the fragility of success in the entertainment industry. What do you think is the greatest tragedy in the lives of these legends? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence.